Manever I say ma PENDREAM TV. PENDREAM TV there, I see them yopo.
So we have our constitution, and the constitution is clear about separation of powers and rule of law. When we come to our constitution, the mandates, in fact, power actually belongs to the people, but functions of are divided into the three arms of government. So we have the executive, which have their function. We have the legislature, and then we have the judiciary. We know that laws are made by parliament. So the speaker, in most places like in America, the speaker is the law. They make the law. Now, when they make the law, which is a bill, it goes to the president to assent to it, it becomes a law. And then anytime there's a dispute, we have the judiciary that interprets that law. So the functions are very clear out there. I think that is the beauty of democracy. What the speaker did was right, to say that we sent our bill to the president to sign. And I've said it here a couple of times that values are priceless. There's nothing that you can exchange values for. So what is happening now is that we have a tussle between the law and reasoning and processes, and then applications. In the end, the people suffer because we have some ministers to approve so that they can begin to work. We also have a bill that should be on the desk of the president to append his signature so that it becomes a law. All this should be done, but it should be done in the interest of Ghanaians. So the question here is, what do Ghanaians want? I think that Ghanaians want the president to sign that bill to become a law so that our values as a sovereign nation will be protected. In the same way, we also expect Parliament to make sure that they approve these ministers so that they can begin to work. Because as at now, they are not working and government business is lying idle.
You see, and taking into consideration that particular issue you raise as well, as we speak, a decision has to be taken. Members of Parliament have to be recalled. But as you're talking about this bill also being passed, the anti-LGBTQ plus bill, which is the foundation for all what is happening now.
Yes.
The president is making reference to a number of cases, or that is the Attorney General's advice to him. There's a number of cases in court, reason why he should tarry a while in signing on to this.
Yes, you see, the problem is that there's something called equalization. The Constitution is very clear. I know law is a very authoritative language, but it's very clear that when we say separation of powers, it means that the powers are equal. I have said here that if you look at the U.S. Constitution, where I stayed for over 20 years, the proponents of U.S. Constitution, the original Constitution that we copied from, is saying that the founding fathers believe that the executive could be more powerful than the other ones, as we are practicing here. But the weakest link there is the judiciary. Why? Because anytime Parliament is making law, but we want the judiciary to come and interpret the laws the way they deem fit. I believe that Nelson's case, according to what we are hearing and what we've seen from the newspapers and everything going on, Nelson's case was sent 2 clear weeks before this issue came out. So we have a bill in front of the president. The president have not signed it. We saw the Ministry of Finance saying that they could lose $3.8 billion when the president signed that bill. So people thought that our democracy, our sovereignty is being influenced by other cultures. So it all boils down to values. What is our values? Do we as a people want to talk about sexual orientation, and then we look at the process that Parliament have gone through to make sure that this becomes a bill that the president should append his signature to, or the president will decide not to sign? In fact, we have a dilemma here. And this is an ethical dilemma that we all have to pass. Yes, like I said, I'm going to repeat it. The president should append his signature to that bill to become a law, because that is the values. So sexual orientation, is not a right. It's a privilege. And when we come to scholarly work, there's a difference between privileges and right. So when somebody is a pedophile, he aligns to that is the way he wants to sleep with kids. But the law will prevent that person, that you cannot do that, because the lowest bar in our society, the values that we have, is against that practice. And that is why even in US, when you go to jail for child pornography or anything, you are not allowed to stay close to 5 miles to any school. Because that is their values. So if any country loses their values, then you are lost. And that is why it is important for us to uphold to our values, especially when Parliament have all agreed bipartisan bill to this, that all that the president needed to do was to sign. But unfortunately, if you look at what is going on, Parliament is not speaking with one voice because most of them want to please the president. That is not how it's supposed to be. Because once you become a parliament, and here we go to our constitution, which is creating that problem. I propose that parliamentarians should not be selected to be part of the executive as ministers, because now everybody is trying to catch the eye of the president instead of the eye of the speaker.
Oh, and that constitutional review process is one that Professor Jampo has been on for quite a while now. And there are recommendations to cure this sickness that you have just made reference to. But we are here after spending so much money going through that constitutional review process. The commitment to implement these recommendations is one that also is in limbo now. But this is what the concerns of the NDC are. Earlier in the week, even before this court case, the hearing of this case at the Supreme Court, the NDC raised these concerns. And you take a look at this. One, they say that this decision by the court, the Supreme Court, to hear the Nelson Rockton Dafiamako case was a ploy by the Chief Justice to fast-track the determination of the Dafiamako suit, while determination of the Richard Sky suit is deliberately and unduly delayed to enable the president shelve the anti-LGBTQ plus bill. They continue that arbitrary exercise of administrative discretion by the Chief Justice, particularly in scheduling of cases in the Supreme Court, goes to fortify the high perception of bias on the part of the judiciary. Such judicial manipulations go to confirm growing public perception that the current Chief Justice is a pliant accomplice and arbiter of the misrule of the despotic Akufo-Addo-Bawumia NPP government. There can be no earthly justification for listing the Dafiamako case ahead of the Richard Sky case, and they demand an immediate rectification of this travesty. It says there cannot be any earthly justification for this, what happened this week. Well, the justification or explanation to this, as given by the Attorney General, was that he applied for an expedited hearing. What we got to know, and I'll come to you on this point, that what is the standard procedure if you want an expedited hearing? Because in what we have observed, at least in the recent past and what's happening now, is that in the case of Nelson Rockton Dafiamako, was there any return date given for this particular suit that he applied for or filed at the Supreme Court?
Thank you very much.
Whenever I say PENDREAM TV, PENDREAM TV, dear, I see them, you